Hey y'all, this is Bararu, and I am back this time with a review of my favorite show from my childhood, and that is the Powerpuff Girls, the 1998 version. So this series left a special place in my heart, and I still love it to this day because it pretty much was like a introduction to my superhero phase at the time, because during the time I didn't really know too much about superheroes, well, except for Superman and Batman. But the Powerpuff Girls was the one where I really started to like the superhero genre. And what's interesting about this show is that it came out around the time when I was born. So basically, it came out in November of 1998, and I was born in October of 1998. So basically, I was a newborn at the time, during the time when the show was airing. Like, isn't that crazy? But anyway, so what I love about the series is that during the time there wasn't like too much female representations, like with the whole superhero genre, and especially with children too. And so this show was like a pretty great introduction with the whole superhero genre, showing that not only children can become superheroes, but they can also be male or female or whatever, like, or of any age or whatever you want to put them in. And so, where to begin? So the animation to the show is absolutely still incredible to this day. It's like it's almost like comic book, but still like hand drawn type of cartoon type of animation. And it did change during the time when the movie came out, but that's a different story for a different time. But anyway, the main leads themselves, Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup, they're very likable. And not only are they very strong and adorable, well, they're basically both of them. They're very good leads for a show like this, showing that even though they're still kindergartners, they still take the time to save the day from trouble or anything like that. Because, well, the mayor of Townsville, he calls them on this phone to give them a heads up about like what's going on, and to see what's going on and take care of any villains or monster problems, because Townsville, that is not a safe city to be live in. Like, it's not. Because there's always like giant monsters, there's always criminal activity going on, and luckily, since the professor created the Powerpuff Girls, they have no luck trying to take over Townsville. And speaking of the professor, he's a really good father figure. I love that he loves and takes care of his three daughters like a good parent that he is. He's actually one of my top uh, parents in cartoon history. He's actually a very good father. Like, even though he doesn't have a wife, but he still manages to take care of three children on his own, even though they're experiments, but he still did a good job with what he was doing. Usually when you hear people say who their favorite Powerpuff Girl is, they usually say Bubbles or Buttercup, but not too many people say Blossom. But I will admit that I do understand why, because there are times when Blossom can be a bit bossy at times, but she is like the leader and she is kind of like the oldest, so of course she is bossy. I mean, a hero's got to do what a hero's got to do, or a leader's got to do what a leader's got to do. But um interesting enough is that when people compare the girls' powers, they compare them to Superman, because basically they are like the three mini versions of Superman. I did read one comment like years ago where they said that in the Powerpuff Girls movie, they're basically what if Superman had kids, you know, because they do have similar abilities to him, but they do have their own unique abilities. Like, Blossom has ice breath, Bubbles can speak Spanish and can talk to animals, while Buttercup, even though she doesn't have a unique power of her own, but she does hit with like raw power and brutal strength, which does make her stand out. I do feel bad that she doesn't really have a unique power to stand out, but it's okay. Raw power is power. Speaking of the movie, the Powerpuff Girls did have their own movie back in 2002, and it was like the very first theatrical cartoon film that was from Cartoon Network that was like released in theaters at the time. Even though a lot of fans did watch it at the time and they really enjoyed it, myself included, it didn't really perform too well in the box office because they thought it was like too dark and too violent for a kid show, which is kind of funny because the early seasons they had their dark moments and it got pretty violent at times, which showed that the show was not a show for like just little girls. It was for everyone. Because I have to tell you guys, there were times when the show got way too violent and way too extreme at times, but it was pretty impressive at the time, so we couldn't like really judge too much, especially when you look back into it. But I still enjoy the movie though. It was a great origin story because it was kind of like almost a parody of those whole superhero origins, but it still was really good. Not only did the Powerpuff Girls get just the movie, they also had a wide variety of range of merchandise. They had like plushies, they had action figures, they had basically everything. I did own like some of my own Powerpuff Girls merch at the time. Like I did have plushies of them. I had action figures of them. I had this one toy where Blossom's guitar would play music, and I did have one Buttercup plush that did speak, and it was really cool. And I did love doing my own role play versions of the Powerpuff Girls at the time because I was a huge Powerpuff Girls fan back in the day. I really was. And they were my very first backpack that I owned back in preschool. And it was a really good time, especially when it came out. And I did own two Powerpuff Girls video games. I did own Chemical Extraction, the N64 version, and Relish Rampage for the PS2. For Chemical Extraction, I did used to enjoy playing this game as a kid, but now when I look back at it, it's wow, it is not very good. You only um oh Lord. The game was like very, very limited. They only had one song, which was their theme song, playing throughout the whole entire game. The combat was very cheap and easy to beat the characters with, and they all were the same. Where if you play as Blossom, it's the same story. When you play as Bubbles, it's the same, and same thing with Buttercup. It was really limited and cheap, and I did heard the PlayStation 1 version was better, but I didn't own that version, so I own the sucky version. Boo. As for Relish Rampage, this one I had a lot of fun with. This one was actually my favorite to play way more than Chemical Extraction because you are flying around the city of Townsville. It's like free to roam around, like, or should I say fly around, because of course the girls are flying around. And so you're flying around doing missions and collecting items like the optional items if you want to. It's basically a pretty fun game. Like sure it's straightforward, but it's actually pretty fun. The only issue I have of the game is that the combat can be a bit uh finicky at times, but if you find a way to get the hang of the combat skills, then it shouldn't be too much of an issue. And of course, there are some missions in the game where it can be very unfairly difficult, but once you figure it out, it should be a fun ride. And I would pick this game over Chemical Extraction because at least this one was fun. It actually feels like you are in the Powerpuff Girls universe and playing as the main lead themselves. You can also switch between the girls if you want to, and it's really fun. Overall, the Powerpuff Girls 1998 is still an amazing show and it still holds up to this day as being one of the best Cartoon Network shows of all time. And don't speak to me about the reboot because the reboot is trash. That is not the Powerpuff Girls. I kind of wish that instead of doing a reboot, I wish that they did like a sequel, kind of like a continuation of showing what the Powerpuff Girls are doing for the next generation and creating new versions of the Powerpuff Girls for the next generation. Because that would have kept their legacy and still keep them going. But what can you do? They didn't do that, so boo on that one. I recommend checking out the classic series because it's really, really good and it's still good to this day. And I hope you guys enjoyed as much as I did, but if not, then that's okay. Anyway, I gotta go because there's gonna be some IRL stuff going on. But anyway, thanks for watching this video, you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see y'all around. See y'all later. Once again, the day is saved thanks to the Powerpuff Girls. I had to do that. Classic.